Hi everyone, welcome to the latest edition of The Intelligent Estate, where luxury meets smart living. I'm your host Travis Leo, and today we'll be diving into the world of home theaters and large format LED video walls. This is a cool topic that's seeing a lot of evolution and change right now. With us today is Kyle Steele from Global Wave Integration in Burbank, California. Kyle's the principal at Global Wave and an expert in high-end cinema installations, having worked on some of the most exclusive projects across the globe. Kyle has decades of experience designing, installing, programming, and servicing high-end cinemas at some of the most luxurious residences in the area. So it's my pleasure today to welcome Kyle to the Intelligent Estate.
Thank you, Travis. Thank you for having me.
Kyle, in 30 seconds, give us your background and the background on Global Wave.
Yeah, so I officially incorporated Global Wave Integration back in 2008. I started as a restaurant programmer over 20 years ago. What brought me to LA, I was a touring musician, and it was kind of pay to play back then, and responded to a employment ad, and just fell in love with this industry. So I was a hired gun for years, and then our very first client was a very iconic filmmaker, and we were redoing his theater, and I had no business getting this job. It was just myself and like one other helper, and I got a lot of my work from Crestron as like the fix-it guy. When Crestron had a bad install or something, they're getting sued, they'd call me to go fix it. So I thought it'd be really great if I could get a new project that's like not an upset client. And this client, they asked for, typically it's 3 dealers that Crestron gives out.
Okay.
This client wanted 6 integrators. So I think Crestron just kind of threw my hat in the ring, being like, yeah, he has no chance. I was selected for the project, and I couldn't believe it. I was instantly just like petrified, like, what am I going to do? This is one of my idols. So I asked the client, like, why he selected us. Like, we're very new. And he said he wanted somebody younger. We're talking about things that no one else was talking about. He said we're very forward-thinking and innovative. So from then, we've really hung our hat on that. And fast forward to 2019, that's why we bought our building, to create like a living lab, like what are the most innovative, forward-thinking solutions out there. That's not bleeding edge, but cutting edge. And so that brings us to today's topic.
And obviously, over the years, you've worked in dozens, hundreds of homes. How many homes, high-end homes, would you guess that you and your firm have worked in since you started Global Wave?
We're pretty boutique. We're not a big team. We're about 20 strong right now. I would say we're probably in the low hundreds at this point.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of projects that take 5 years. Even an 8,000 square foot house in Malibu took 6 years. So it's not so much quantity, but quality, I would say.
Obviously, one of the things that you guys specialize in and you're known within the industry for is high-end cinemas. So what's hot in high-end cinemas right now? What are people paying attention to? What are they looking at? What technologies? What products? What if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to put a high-end cinema in my estate home"? What are they doing?
Great question. So we went deep into this back in 2019. Like, we're building the showroom. I didn't believe in showrooms, and I know that's a completely different topic, but it's like, how do we hide the technology? How do we build like a high-performing space where you don't see the technology? We didn't want a projector in the room. We didn't have the real estate for it. And then we're looking into LED video walls, and back then we just didn't have the best experience with certain manufacturers. And at that time, we won Barco Integrator of the Year back-to-back, so they stepped up and basically just gave us a sweetheart deal for a Nord. So what we ended up doing is we wanted to showcase like the window on the wall. That was kind of like the solution, right? It's still projection, but it's rear projection. So we had a Stewart glass that they really don't do anymore. But they stepped up during the pandemic, and it took a while to build that. So when clients come in our showroom, we kind of present direct view LED walls. That's the rage right now, right? It's LED walls, immersive audio. TPI, in my opinion, is the best solution for Atmos and video walls with their movement system. It's the best thing I've heard out there, and I've heard many different solutions out there.
For our listeners that may not be familiar with TPI, can you explain that in a little more detail?
Yes, I kind of equate TPI. The industry standard up until now was Meyer Sound, based out of Berkeley. Most of our cinemas, is definitely professional grade. One cinema, we have over 60 Meyer sound speakers. And our showroom was going to be Meyer. And then TPI, based in England, Ryan Donaher from Apex, he's like, have you heard of these guys? I have not. My favorite is Meyer Sound. All our cinemas were Meyer Sound. We did a A/B shootout in our showroom, and I was blown away. Just this warm, analog sound coming from TPI. And the most important thing, especially for our industry, is having the capability to custom build speakers and keep the performance, right? Meyer Sound's just a big box, and if you got the real estate, great, that's a great solution. But a lot of our cinemas, even new construction, it could be in a basement where the concrete's already poured. TPI will step up and they'll custom spec build to make sure something fits. And that's rare in our industry. And the performance is there. So we can get, DCI certified for, Digital Cinema Initiative, DCPs, like day and date movies that, people in the industry, they don't have to go to the movie theater anymore. They can get the content directly in their home. So we can still get that Dolby certification using TPI. So for us, that became a real viable solution.
You mentioned LED video walls. If somebody comes to you now, it used to be projection systems was the only way to go for a theater room. Obviously, LED video walls have gotten way better. The pixel pitch has gotten tighter. The quality's gotten better. The reliability's gotten better. Are people putting those in high-end home cinemas, or is it still primarily projection technology?
No, all our designs moving forward, I should say most of them, are DV LED, direct view.
Okay.
Once you see it, you really can't go back. You're just ruined, right? But the engineering is completely different. So that's something that's extremely important up front. It's not like a golf simulator where you can wire for both, where it could be a media room or golf sim. You can't really engineer a room for, LED and projection. There's just too much to consider. So up front, we need to figure out what are the needs of the client, right? Cooling of a video wall is very different than projection system, right? Typically, cinema at this scale, you have a projection booth in the back. That's a conditioned space for HVAC. It's always cooled. But now you're putting in a video wall where the heat is given off the front. So you actively have to plan and engineer, hey, we need to pull cool air from the bottom of the screen and vent out of the top of the screen. So just that design and engineering totally changes. So most of our designs moving forward have this factored in. And then more importantly is the audio. So historically, when you're doing a high-end projection system, that whole front wall is absorption. You're taking all the waves and energy up front. Now you're reversing that. Now you're getting reflection off the LED screens. So how do you accommodate for that? So acoustic totally changes. Recently, you can go to a studio in Hollywood, Red Studios, I think it's owned by Brad Pitt, where they host these events that kind of showcase movement system and LED video wall. But when you go in there, the video wall is so large that you hear this reverberation coming off the front of the screen, because now you have the audio waves bouncing off the screen and not being absorbed. So we're all kind of learning as the industry is evolving. The game's totally changed because I'm kind of a purist. If I'm going to do a high-end cinema, I like projection because I'm focused on audio, right? The science is there. You can design it, the exact placement. Dolby gets it. They can stamp the rooms, and it works. And now with video wall, we're losing those front channels behind the screen. And the whole magic of a cinema is there's the talking head. I want to hear it coming at me. Even our showroom, we had TPI with the center channel down low, and it's a piece of glass, right? And I thought just a footprint wouldn't be a big issue, but when we first completed the first round, it just took you out of the experience, right? Because that dialogue isn't coming from the talking head, it's coming from below. So how do you raise that sound floor? And I think that's where TPI came up with the movement system, where you have 3 channels up above and 3 below. And now they really got that center channel and dialogue coming at you. And I do feel they're on the forefront of that. Meyer Sound does have a good solution, but the room has to be right with their reflective system. And that's basically just kind of bouncing off the front of the screen and timing it back. That's difficult to do. You're losing 12 feet of the room where it's like a dead space, right? So when it comes to these rooms, it is that discussion on the engineering up front. What are the expectations of the client? Because that's kind of the first decision is like, are we going video wall or are we going projection system?
Yeah, this isn't something you decide at the end. The room needs to be designed around the technology that's going to go in from the very beginning.
And 100%. And I think this year I've had more discussions about power than AV. I mean, you have to have the foundation. Power is so instrumental. Like, you can't build a house if the foundation isn't there. So video walls are very power hungry. They're finicky. There's a lot of dedicated 20 amp circuits. If you're not supplying perfect and stable power to that wall, you're going to have issues. So that's something you got to get in early on. And I think having these conversations as an integrator, you're no longer just a subcontractor coming in to install a projector. You're now part of the design team, because that's the first question you always have to ask as an integrator going to these projects is, what is the power plan? Because that has a huge impact on the performance of the theater.
How much power does an LED video wall take? I mean, if I'm putting a 130, 140 inch LED screen, I mean, am I running to 320 amp circuits? How much does it consume if I have to consider that?
Yeah, depending on the sections and size, like you have a dedicated 20 amp circuit. What we always recommend is like a 360 power, like a 10 kW unit that's almost just being fed off the critical panel to the video wall into the rack. But there's other solutions out there like Rosewater, Bright Vault. But Rosewater has saved us on a couple of projects. I mean, we had a couple takeover projects where the client had a very high-end, Barco Thor, which is like their flagship at the time.
Flagship projector, just to be clear, for those that may not be familiar with the Thor, it's a projector?
Yes, it's their flagship probably a couple of years ago. And this theater was complete, but this theater had all kinds of issues going on. We got called in. The first thing we did, we just put in like a little Surgex squid to measure power for about 2 weeks. And we're seeing all kinds of voltage drops, plus minus 6. And so we're like, you need Rosewater. And they're having constant lockups on the projector. They put in Rosewater, and I think for the past year, they haven't had a single lockup.
So power is really, really important in these technologies.
Yeah, and it's no joke. I've had more conversations about power this year than AV or integrated systems. It is everything. If you want a reliable, stable theater, because most of these clients, the one thing they can't buy is time. So the last thing they want to do is go watch a movie with their family. They hit a button, nothing works. Like, we have to mitigate those issues and problems, and that's why I'm so adamant about power.
You've talked about a couple of projectors, Barco in particular, as well as some other sound manufacturers. What's your go-to product for video walls? And maybe talk a little bit about kind of the good, better, best approach to video walls that it seems like a lot of people tend to take.
Yeah, great question. Actually, one of my favorite projects I've ever done, amazing client, is a quantum video wall. It was the first ever DCI compliant video wall. So Ken Hoffman, Caesar at Quantum, they're amazing. They're very hands-on, but the long and short of it, we had a client, he's a studio head. He was going to do a projection system. But again, the real estate wasn't there. We're having meetings. He had a Christie projector, Meyer sound system. Meyer sound referred us in. He had all the gear, and we're like, how are we going to make this work? And, construction costs to retrofit and build out housing on the exterior for projector was just way too expensive. So he single-handedly went to Quantum, and Ken was like, I want to make you guys DCI compliant because that's the only solution that will work. I love the quality, the HDR, the contrast. It's mind-blowing. Like, once you see it, but he's convinced it could never be DCI compliant. So it took months. We had to redo like the security, the engineering, where wires were ran, where the server was located. It was very fluid. But end of the day, the client loves it. And now moving forward, it's DCI certified. So being the first one ever, we could see the benefit of having this type of wall, especially in smaller footprints where you don't have the luxury of building out or furring out walls. Quantum is amazing. It truly is a great product.
In the good, better, best world, is Quantum your best option? If the client says, "Hey, I want the best I can do," is that where you're going? Or are there some other manufacturers out there that you put in that continuum?
Yes, I think Quantum's kind of like our flagship. That's our go-to. Barcode, their product's amazing. The only downside as of now, I don't know the roadmap, but it's just not DCI certified. And I haven't been hands-on, but I've been hearing amazing things about it. Just video walls. I hear a lot of Synergy members really kind of positive feedback on that, so I want to look into that. But that would probably be my good, better, best.
You've mentioned DCI a couple times, and you've kind of talked about same date, same time. Talk a little bit more about DCI for those that may not be familiar with it.
Yeah, and I do think it's relevant outside of Hollywood. I kind of like, it's like watching the show The Studio. I don't know if you've seen that, but it's the funniest show I've seen in a while on Apple. I'm like, is it just funny because it's relatable to our clients and like living in Hollywood? But I reached out to my friends. They're like, no, this show is really funny. So that's kind of like what DCI is to me, because that industry is quickly evolving. So DCI is kind of the standard, and it's very stringent on to get this content, because it's like Napster when that came out. It's like the movie studios don't want to turn it into a music label where now everything's getting ripped off. So Dolby has to stamp everything. You have to basically submit engineering docs, where the speakers are, calculations. Once it's stamped, you can get your client on the Bel Air circuit. And all that really is kind of the relationships with the studio heads being like, hey, I want this content from the studio. And it's up to the discretion of the studio head. You don't have to be in the entertainment industry. You can be titan of your industry. Basically just the relationships. And I'm working with a couple Synergy members where they're clients outside the industry, but they're like, hey, we want to be on the Bel Air circuit. So it's been fun to kind of educate that whole process, because it's the Wild West on what this Bel Air circuit is to get the DCI content and DCPs, which is the package from the studios. But now with streaming, it's not streaming. You stream the content, but then you download it on an encrypted server. And that's kind of changed everything, because even just a few years ago, right before the pandemic, we physically had to go to the studios, get the content on a USB stick, and then like ship it across the country. And it was always like a scramble, right? Like, hey, a client coming in and he wants to watch this, premiere coming out tomorrow. But now that there's these servers, the media block, like in the rack, all we have to do is log in and put an encryption key, and now they can view the content for 24 hours, 48 hours. It really depends on the studio.
Cool.
And you pay a small fee. So it's just that luxury of this clientele. Again, like they can't buy time. It's like they want to be home with their family and friends or entertain and have this experience that is exactly the same, if not better, than going to a commercial cinema. I haven't been to a commercial cinema in years, since like Top Gun came out. And once you have that personalized experience, kind of even in our showroom, it's tough to not have that. So I think it's expanding to different markets. A lot of the clientele that's on the circuit, they have mini homes like Aspen, Jackson Hole. They're across the country. So having integrators being educated in, supplying this service, I think it's a great add-on. And if a room's DCI compliant, it's high performing. So there's a certain standard it has to hit. And I think that's just going to take education and working together to kind of knock those rooms out of the park. So
is it possible for podcast hosts to get on the Bel Air circuit, with our 65-inch nice OLED TV that we have, or is it a little more dedicated for the high-end cinema space?
A couple more speakers, a little bit bigger.
A couple more
It's a good
speakers.
start.
All right, we'll keep going. You mentioned on the video walls, you've kind of primarily been talking about cinema. Are you seeing those direct view LED walls in living rooms, media rooms, not the dedicated theater space? They used to get the 75 or the 100-inch TV. Are you seeing those video walls now expand out into that type of space?
Absolutely. And that's kind of the intention of our showroom too. It's like mixed use, that's kind of like the thing moving forward. Like I think, I don't know if it's because of families and short attention spans, but that idea of spending time with family in a theater seat, dedicated, we go into clients' homes, everyone's on their phone. So now the trend is really like the living room and making that really high performing, hiding the technology, but hanging out with the family. And like, somebody's cooking in the kitchen, and it's more like of this group environment where you're just not sitting in this seat, or even the dedicated cinemas that are video wall. It's like, love seats, kind of cuddle bags. It's just kind of like a flex space where it's very fluid in a way. I mean, that's definitely the trend. Putting in a pool table, a library, it's not so focused on this dedicated experience, but time you can spend truly with friends and family. That's most of our designs moving forward. And these wellness rooms, I mean, the dedicated cinema is now evolving into this wellness room where you can kind of go relax, rejuvenate, and it's not so much about watching a movie. It's like you can just be in an immersive space where soundscapes, naturescapes, human-centric lighting, acoustics, where it just feels comfortable. Like my favorite thing when people come to our showroom, as soon as they walk in, it feels like a warm hug. It's not a dedicated space, but that's kind of our design with intention, is making it kind of this wellness, healthy space. It's not so much about smart home, but healthy homes now. What does that mean? And bringing families together in that community and having that experience instead of like, hey, let's just go watch a movie. It just feels like that dynamic within the home has changed, and we've leaned in pretty hard on that.
The knock on dedicated theaters used to be, nobody wants to invite all their friends over to watch the big game and go lock themselves in a room and turn all the lights down and watch it in the dark. I assume these direct view LED wall for sports watching are spectacular.
Oh, it's the best, because you can have ambient light. So, you're bringing nature in, you have great lighting, you can see your friends, you can talk to them, and with LED, it's so bright. You can have all the shades open, and you're not losing anything on the experience. If anything, you're enhancing it. It's a big shift. A lot of our designs now, it's like living room, video wall. Sure, the guest house will turn into a cinema dedicated. And I read 2 years ago a CEDIA report, the average use of a dedicated cinema is twice a year. It's usually during the holidays, and most integrators listening, they get that call, right? It's like, hey, sorry I didn't reach out. I have family and friends over, and they're trying to watch a Blu-ray, and I forgot how this works, or can you help me out? It's just not used as much. But if you're a purist and you want that experience, dedicated cinema is still there. There's still demand for it. We're just seeing multiple rooms being used in different ways. Outside, video walls, living room, master bedroom, a hidden theater, maybe drop down screen, and then still a dedicated space. And we're seeing more and more call outs of wellness rooms. So what is a wellness room? So window on the wall, that's your direct view LED. Catcher lighting, and just having this all tied into a simple, easy to use experience that's reliable. And that's the future for sure.
Obviously in your market, the LA market, space is expensive. Dedicated cinema is a big endeavor from a budgetary standpoint, and from a space standpoint. And you mentioned wellness rooms. We did an episode a couple of weeks ago on golf simulators where they talked about space that was previously being dedicated for being dedicated for home theaters is now being used for golf simulators in many markets. What are you seeing? Are people putting all of those in? Are they picking and choosing? Are they still putting cinemas in? Are you seeing cinemas and golf simulators just kind of across the board? What are you seeing in California?
Yeah, because I think we do have more real estate that we see these rooms being called out, especially in plans. I always joke that, I'm a music lover, but we don't sell a lot of 2-channel. We're always like, why is that? It's like, well, if someone's going to do 2-channel in LA, they're going to put speakers everywhere and go Atmos and make it a mixed use. And then for golf simulators, we're doing a project now where it's a golf simulator, dedicated room. This is all in the guest house. 2-channel setup, and then theater next to it. In our experience, golf simulators, when we try to do high performing cinema with golf simulator, we struggle to make that work. So we haven't done many mixed kind of dual purpose golf simulators.
Well, and I would guess too, in an environment like California where you can play golf outside 365 days, it's not as much as in demand as it might be in Minneapolis or upstate New York or something like that. And obviously too, with the Bel Air circuit and the executives in the industry that you probably call a lot clients, cinema is going to be more important to them.
Yes, I'd rather do a golf sim so I don't embarrass myself on the course. So I'm all
How would you advise clients when it comes to selecting a projection system versus an LED wall, because LED walls are still pretty expensive today. Projection systems are still probably more common overall. So if somebody came to your showroom and said, hey, we want to see both technologies and here's our plan set, how are you going to advise them to make the technology selection?
Yeah, great question. It really depends on many factors, right? Managing expectations is always key, like how they envision using the space. Like, do they prefer video over audio? Like, everyone's got those kind of triggers a little bit, and then, of course, comes the value engineering of it. But a lot of the times it's looking at the real estate, like what's possible, like what's doable. Sometimes we get lucky where we had a Hollywood producer just come in to our showroom. He was here 5 minutes, watch 2 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, said, just pick this up and drop this in my house in Aspen. All right, now we know what we're designing. But a lot of the times it's like, do we even have the space? Like, I totally understand, like, you want a flagship Barco, but where are we going to put it? We can't put that in the room. And so sometimes the design elements kind of force your hand. Well, let's go video wall, but do we even have space around the video wall for speakers? Do we have space overhead for Atmos? So it's always a fluid conversation, I feel like, initially. But going back to the engineering point, it's like you have to understand what direction up front to kind of facilitate the conversation moving forward with the entire design team. And as we all know, it's kind of a dance, kind of what battles you want to pick, because you can't usually put everything in that the client wants. So I think it's just getting the info from them, listening to what they want, and then presenting them the options on what's possible.
When it comes to seating in these theaters, what are people doing? Are they picking stuff out from a dedicated theater seating company? Are they finding stuff that, through a local designer, or a combination of both? What are people doing when it comes to seating in theaters these days?
Not a combination, but what we try to do is Sneak has a showroom in Hollywood. It's like what we always say. You have to go have the experience. Like, go touch, feel, sit in it. Sneak's kind of our go-to for high-end because they can custom build anything. And they have constantly new products coming out. They're just in our showroom last week. But if we can get a client, interior designer, architect there, we let them handle that sale. Usually interior designers, they want to build it. So we try to steer them. Well, here's a good product. It's motorized. It can tie into automation systems. Just make a more seamless, elegant experience.
What mistakes do you see other companies, technology integrators or architects, designers, builders, what mistakes do you see them make when you walk into a home cinema on a takeover project or something where you get called in after the fact?
Yeah, HVAC design, many different reasons. You can hear it. If it's well thought out, like you can design the HVAC system where you can't tell if it's on or off. And you don't want these noises that take people out of the experience, right? You don't want to put hardwire phones in cinema, in my opinion, because it's taking them out of the experience. Power is definitely the number one. And then really it's just kind of programming. I mean, I think historically our industry was kind of like throw everything at it, put every bell and whistle in there. And I think we're all seeing is like minimize that pain, less points of failure, use product that you've worked with before that's reliable. There's solutions out there like Storm. I mean, it's a great company to work with. And I think picking your companies that have support, like I would not be here today if it wasn't for, friends like Ryan at Apex, Jimmy, Daniel at Barco. They went to bat for us. So I think you also want to select product where the owners or the reps, they understand the CI channel. Like, we're small. Like, the CI channel is not big, but, it's not easy what we do. Like, our clientele, the expectation is things can never fail. Now, we all know things fail, but what can we do to mitigate those pain points? So failovers, redundancy, having that 24/7 support, not just from your company as an integrator, but from your vendors. That's really important. So if you're looking at video walls, sometimes that is a question. Can this company support it? We've used vendors in the past where we got zero support in video walls. And now even with Quantum, I was like, can you guys support all this? Like, you guys are doing well on a lot of projects. And Caesar always picks up the phone. Ken's always available. So that's important. I think integrators, they kind of like, well, here's a bill of materials, put that in, but what happens when things fail? You have to like plan for that, right? And just trying to get ahead of it. Proactive monitoring, preventative maintenance, both projection and video walls, they do require a lot of maintenance. Just know that if you've never done a video wall, when you install it, the house settles. And so the tiles move, right? And so it might be a week later, like, I just installed this and now I can see all the lines. Like, just plan on a visit going back. And train, if you start doing a lot of video walls, train how to replace diodes, how to use like a magnet to kind of level out the panels. Just, if you're going to get into this space, just be aware that, it's not for the faint of heart. There's a lot of design, engineering, and support. And if you can deliver, then your client's going to be happy. The first ever DCI quantum wall we did, he's referred us to a bunch of people. So that means a lot. So we learned a lot on that one project, which I'm happy to share. But I think just thoughtful, intentional design and service and support, you'll do very well in this space.
Along with power. I think that's one of my big takeaways from this conversation is planning the power and the HVAC cooling for either a projection system or a direct view LED wall is probably something that gets overlooked. And if you're going to spend, what's a 150-inch quantum LED wall cost these days? A couple $100,000?
Easy. So if you can put in something like 360 power, that's under $20,000. That's like cheap insurance on your investment, right? That's kind of like a no-brainer, and everyone can sleep better at night. But yeah, I can't stress enough power. You can't change what you can't measure. So give them the data. You're not just here selling something that it's not empirical to them. Like, oh, this is just another expensive device. It's like, this is your data. This is your data now. Like, it's a good thing if you're calling me Les, right? That means it's working.
Last question as we start to wrap up here. What size can you do an LED video wall, and what size can you do a projection system today without really getting beyond the limits of what the technology can do?
Good question. I don't know of limitations. I know we did the same size at 22 feet wide on both projection and video wall. I don't know if there's a limitation. Obviously commercially you see these giant displays. But if you think of price per, inch, you can get a lot more with projection, right? So I think the bigger you go, I think that cost delta kind of leans in the favor of projection. But I'm not exactly sure. But if you're going to go big, I'd definitely go, especially with the light steering technology coming out with Barco. It's now out. They rebranded it as HDR by Barco. It's already out in commercial cinemas. And to me, that's more impactful than video walls. Like, it's how they steer the light. Like, now with projection, black is pretty much black, and they focus all that energy on the brightness, so the contrast levels are huge. And if I was going to go to a big screen and if I had enough real estate residentially, you can buy that commercial projector, but that would be the best way to go big and have the best experience would be, Barco light steering is just amazing technology.
I'm guessing once you get up into that size of projection system or direct view LED wall, your seating has to be so far back that you're getting into a much larger footprint of a theater type design. Is that true?
Yeah, and you actually have to get FDA clearance, like on those things. They're flamethrowers, they're lasers, because of how they're pinpointing the energy. You have to be at least 30 feet away, to even like glimpse at the laser, or else it'll burn your eyes out. So but with anything, it's going to get more cost effective, just better technology. And as we see that light steering HDR kind of come into the consumer, or at least the prosumer market residentially, that's going to be a game changer too.
Well, last question, Kyle. What's the coolest project you're working on right now? And what makes that a unique project that's different from something else that you've done over your years of experience doing these?
Ooh, it's probably a conversation last night. Younger guy, just bought a $60 million home in Bel Air and just gutted it, tore it down. He's building out the guest house right now, and that's the one with the golf sim, high-end 2-channel. The guy loves technology, and the main house is going to be video wall. He wants it to be the most tricked-out home but traditional-looking house, so there's that design intention with it. But last night was pretty cool because he's like, I want 4 humanoids on my property. I'm like, oh, that's funny.
What's a humanoid?
Like a robot. Like I went to ISC and I shook hand with a humanoid and it freaked me out. But this client actually wants to source humanoids from us. And I'm like, we're here because I just met one. And he's like, my wife is going to hate it, but I'd rather have that than AI security cameras. I want 4 humanoids. So he's coming out with stuff like a laser smoke detection system. So in case anything starts smoking in the house, he's definitely pushing the limits. And that's kind of where I thrive. I love like bleeding edge, cutting edge, and what actually works. So, I mean, this project will probably go on for a while, but to have clients like that, like we get to work with, we allow the creators of the world to create. I mean, that's what I love about my job. I mean, recording studios for some of your idols and, home cinema. I mean, that's my favorite part of the job and best experiences when you can work hand in hand with these clients. And it's like, that's our tagline is imagination driven. Whatever you can think of, like, we can execute on that. So that keeps it fun. Over 20 years doing this is the most excited I've ever been, seeing how much is changing.
Well, Kyle, thank you very much for being on The Intelligent Estate today. I appreciate your insight on video walls, on high-end home cinema. I'll put your contact information in here for our video viewers, as well as some pictures of some recent installations that you guys have done. But if you're looking for a high-end cinema in the Burbank area, I can't recommend anyone else to call other than the team at Global Wave. They're serious about what they do. They're very good at what they do. They've worked in some of the most prestigious estates across the globe, quite frankly. So if you're interested in what you heard today, I would encourage you to give them a call. So thank you, Kyle, for being here today. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you, Travis. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Kyle for a really fun conversation on high-end home cinema and the trends that he's seeing in projection systems and large format LED walls. I learned a lot from the conversation and have a new appreciation for what goes into planning for power when you're designing these spaces. Coming up on our next episode, we're going to talk with a couple of experts around power planning for your project. So what do you need to do when it comes to solar and battery backup and generators for your estate level project? If you've enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a quick rating or review. It'll really help design lovers, homeowners, and more tech-forward thinkers find the show. And if you've got questions or ideas or just want to show off your own place, reach out to us on Instagram at The Intelligent Estate Podcast. I'd love to hear from you and maybe even feature your question in an upcoming episode. Thanks for engaging with us today. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.